My name is Devankar Mukhi. I am a Rotarian here in District 6400 here in Detroit, Michigan. Uh, I have been in the Rotary family for, I want to say about 9 years now. I actually first started in Rotary when I was in high school, and I actually joined the Interact Club. And when I came to my university, the Wayne State University in Detroit, Michigan, I really wanted to get involved with Rotaract. I wanted to continue the Rotary journey. And so what happened was, as I tried to find communication or information about the Rotaract Club, it was harder and harder to find. So I naturally reached out to the parent Rotary Club or the sponsor Rotary Club, uh, sort of overseeing that club, which was the Rotary Club of Detroit. And so the Rotary Club of Detroit had given me information with how the club kind of just sort of faded away. It wasn't very active. And they put me in contact with somebody named Dr. Frederick Pearson. Dr. Fred Pearson is a Rotarian and he is now the past director, but at that time he was the director for the university's Center for Peace and Conflict Studies. And that's really the focus of today's talk. Today's talk is really centered towards storytelling, narratives, and how can they help build peace. And introducing this concept of how I had to go out of my way to learn about or ask somebody about where or what happened with the Rotaract Club or in our lives when we ask questions. Questions and asking someone for their story really I have found, have been very powerful in not only peacemaking, but in how can we help create an impact. As I asked him and got to know him more and more, he gave me more information about what this center does and where and how do they take part in Rotary events. Well, this center was founded in the 1960s with the purpose to help educate and organize and help train students to understand what it means to be aware, to be educated, to be understanding of international issues, world politics, and learn about conflicts and how can we build peace towards these conflicts, not only internationally, but locally. And it was very profound to be able to be in a university that has something like this because there aren't many universities that have programs, and in today's day and age, which is so needed, there are not that many. And I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to being able to learn through the Center for Peace and Conflict Studies and help put together amazing events. So I'm going to now transition into my presentation, which I'm really hoping is going to play. Okay. So, okay. I hope this presentation is working. Somebody give me some feedback in the chat. Can everybody see my slides? Perfect. Okay. So as I mentioned to you guys earlier, I'm from Detroit, Michigan. We just recently hosted the 2024 NFL Draft. I'm sure you guys who are football fans saw that on TV, but it was so amazing to be able to be in the city that has gone through a lot of its own conflict, and I think that's a lot of another reason of why not only the center exists, but why I'm so inspired to just continue to make an impact and work and organize in the city locally and just continue to help others to get involved, and whether it's in Rotary or outside of Rotary or how can we collaborate together. Really, peace building, it doesn't just start internationally. It doesn't start at the higher level. It doesn't even start even in the community. Peacemaking starts from within. And as you guys heard from the introduction, I spend a lot of time even on my personal platform, on my Instagram, on creating content that story tells, whether it's personal things I'm talking about or it's sharing stories of other people. Really, for me, I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for really just taking accountability on learning about my own personal conflicts and my personal upbringing and this, that, and the other thing. I think for me, once you start becoming more and more aware of that, then you can create an impact in your neighborhood, in your backyard, and then even further in the world. I'm also the Zone 28. So over here, Detroit and District 6400, we are in Zone 28. So I'm the Zone 28 Assistant Public Image Coordinator. So I actually work with different districts within our zone and individual clubs to talk about how they can better themselves public image wise. So whether that's social media strategies, whether that's helping develop and strategize innovative club events, or even developing club models, whatever it may be to get them to be more attractive to their local public. That's the whole focus. And I do that as well. And so I love integrating that element, which is like really storytelling. If you break that down, what is public image? Well, it's how you are viewed by the public, and how you're viewed by the public ultimately goes down to your story. Whether it's your club story, whether it's your personal story, the more you refine your story, the better you're able to connect. And for me, you can't do peace building without narratives. You can't do peace building without storytelling. And you really can't do peace building without having someone actually talk to, right? That's where it all really goes down to. Once you're able to understand that we're not that different and all it takes is conversations to really get us towards a better world, that's where it comes from. And I'm going to share some real life examples today, kind of talking about that. So why tell stories? As I mentioned earlier, stories are powerful. Stories help create impact. Stories help start movements. And here at Rotary, it's very important that we tell our story to help retain and bring in new membership, and showcase that we are a great organization that is peace building. I love starting out in this quote that I love sharing with all of you. It's together we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe in our communities and ourselves. And I love that, because that "and in ourselves" is so important right there. Now, before you tell your story, you need to start with why. Okay. And I love this book. For those of you that know of Simon Sinek, he's a great speaker, author, and talks about leadership, and talks about how starting with why, whether it's a business venture, whether it's a project you're going to put on in your community, or whether it's something that you're working on with your club, you need to figure out what is that why, and how and why does that integrate in getting somebody involved to work with you, to be able to help you out, or to become a partner organization. Starting with why is the number one most fundamental, most important rule that I would recommend anybody when they're figuring out, how can they become a better club involved in peacemaking initiatives. Well, what is your club's why? Why do you want to get involved with peacemaking? Why do you want to get involved with uh, developing a project that is helping change a community in a way that is going to help bring that peace? That's something that is very important. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And what you simply proves what you believe. That is very important, because at the end of the day, that is what's going to get more and more people involved in peacemaking initiatives and in narratives and in storytelling. I love sharing this quote because this is something that I live very, very near and dear to. We are a mosaic of everyone we've ever met. And that is very true, because no matter if you think about what your favorite new beverage is, or maybe something that you enjoy going towards, or a place that you like eating at, whatever, chances are somebody showed you that. Somebody showed you one of those things, and now it's become so ingrained in your lifestyle that we really are a mosaic of everyone we've ever met. And the reason why I bring this up today even is let me talk to you guys about how I met your fellow Rotarian, Bill Dunwoody. Well, I actually met him when I attended a 2018 Peacebuilding Summit in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. I did not meet him at that event at all, and that's the beautiful part of the story. It was actually on the flight back in which we flew from British Columbia to Seattle, and we were at the Seattle airport. And he was on that flight, still did not meet him, did not talk to him at all. And it was actually at the airport, I think it was getting off the plane or something. There, I recognized his rotary shirt with the wheel, and I believe I was wearing something as well. I think I had a pin on my jacket that had a peace dove with the rotary gear. And in that moment, we both recognize, hey, well, you're in Rotary, I'm in Rotary. Well, let's talk. This is so cool. And it was in that moment where it's like that that interaction and that conversation, that storytelling moment allowed us to have this opportunity, allowed me to have this opportunity 6 years later, being able to share this story with you guys. And that really shows how powerful even a small interaction, whether it's recognizing something that somebody has similar to you on, maybe giving somebody a compliment, maybe sharing something that you wanna give them about that person, whether it's the way they show up or something you noticed about them, even like taking yourself out of your comfort zone and actually having that moment of like, hey, I'm gonna tell this person they're having a really good hair day, to hey, I'm gonna tell this person that there's something that they're wearing that is really just like, I want to know what that is. What is that symbol? What is that? It has such a profound impact on us because that right there, whether as cliche as it sounds, that really is how we can reach a level of peacemaking that I don't think a lot of people are doing nowadays. So many of us are living our boxed, compartmentalized lives from being in our social media, smartphone minds, and we're just so not present anymore that I think that is why it's now more than ever important to recognize that it really does take that simple conversation, that simple, hey, tell me about your story, tell me about where you're from, to really get us towards these peacemaking efforts. So in 2019, a year after that conference, I had a really, really great opportunity, which with our Center for Peace and Conflict Studies, in collaboration with three Rotary clubs, the Rotary Club of Detroit, the Rotary Club of Windsor, Canada, and the Rotary Club of Ann Arbor, Michigan, where we have the big house, Go Blue. The three of our Rotary clubs, along with the Center for Peace and Conflict Studies, hosted the 2019 Rotary Peace in the Streets initiative. Now, why am I sharing this is because this is a model that I would definitely love for you guys to replicate in your district and or in your area, because it's something that was very, very powerful that allowed us to really bring in organizations locally that were doing neighborhood solutions for peace building. So we had organizations talking about beautification and revitalization of neighborhoods and redevelopment, such as parks, and talking about how they're getting involved with city planning to help really invest in parks locally. We had sessions on human trafficking and talking about local organizations that are fighting and combating human trafficking and helping victims re-enter society safely. And then we had a session and track on the drug and opioid public health epidemic. And so that was really catered towards what are organizations locally doing to help properly dispose of drugs, over-the-counter pharmaceutical drugs, because a lot of the issues that actually come from this is regular people are actually not disposing of these pharmaceutical properly, and there's not a way for them to be educated on to know where you're supposed to dispose of these. And so there's a lot of organizations locally that we collaborate with with Rotary to help talk about these things. Then we had a keynote on what it's like to survive such a tragedy. And what tragedy I'm talking about? I'm talking about the 2018 Valentine's Day Parkland High School shooting. To my right, and in this picture on the left, Miss Samantha Fuentes is actually a survivor of the Parkland High School shooting. And we were able to get her involved with our conference because all we had to do was we reached out to her, we gave her the program of what this conference was all about, and we really wanted her to be the keynote actually. And it's interesting because especially in Rotary events, and you can look at me and you probably think that, I'm a younger person. I recognize that in Rotary initiatives, you don't often find a young person keynoting a conference. And that was something that we really wanted to push on the agenda of peacemaking and our conference, because we wanted to really incorporate what the youth and young people, especially organizing, activism, and just sharing their story, are doing to make an impact. What Samantha is doing now post that tragedy is that she started her own movement, and she started her own documentary series that talks about survivor leadership and what it means to actually survive that. The day-to-day trauma, the work that she's been doing, not only in herself, but for others, to just be aware that mental health is very important, especially in today's climate. Samantha was able to share her story. She impacted over 400 attendees that day at our conference, and the Rotary Peace in the Streets name was really focused towards how do we build peace in our streets, in our neighborhoods. And that's something that I would love for you guys to help replicate, bring that towards your communities, your districts, and really just bring this initiative, this conference to your area, because I'm sure you guys can think of hundreds of organizations bringing peace. The real important element that I noticed from our peace conference that was different also, not only did we have a young person be the keynote, was we involved so many organizations. And I noticed that I find a lot of times when I am at different Rotary conferences, district conferences and whatnot, that Rotary has an echo chamber. And it's actually talked about and joked about a lot on Facebook. There's this term called the Rotary Echo Chamber. And the Rotary Echo Chamber consists of just Rotarians talking to Rotarians. And as great as that is, right, we need to do more than that. And how do we do more than that? Well, it takes initiatives like thinking differently, like, hey, instead of having your higher up Rotary dignitary come out and speak at my conference, district conference and whatnot, which of course is important in the right time and place, but maybe for a peace conference, instead of even doing a Rotary Peace Scholar, which I think is an amazing program, right? Think one more step outside of the box. How can we bring in somebody that has no Rotary affiliation, but now, like in this situation that Samantha was able to be a part of, she got to meet Rotarians. She got to learn about Rotary. And in this situation and experience for her, she went back knowing of an organization that didn't even occur in her mind prior to this conference. And so I think that's the approach to, as we're talking about peace building, it really takes working outside of your silo, working outside your echo chamber, and incorporating, whether it's keynotes, sessions, inviting people that are just outside of our Rotary echo chamber, like those who are working in our neighborhoods and our local community organizations, that maybe they know what Rotary is, they've seen what Rotary is a little bit, but they've never been invited, And I think that's another thing that our organization really has been getting better at, is recognizing that, like, we're not excuse me, we're not doing the greatest job at inviting people in. And more and more Rotarians are now aware of this, and I think that's something that really takes that step to peacemaking. Excuse me, because I had to cough. Okay, I didn't want you to hear that over the entire microphone. Now, in this case, talking about Samantha, right? I can push us forward along to one more initiative that we were able to do. And this happened 2022. So this happened 2 years ago, August 2022. Featured right here is my good friend Alex. Alex is a friend I actually made on social media. So social media actually does have some positives, people. Social media actually allowed me to connect with somebody that I didn't know of prior. But Alex is a recording artist, musician, and performer out in Dallas, Texas. He does both Spanish and English music as he is of Mexican descent. Actually lived in Mexico as well. And so Alex, his music was actually something that just I came across of and I really loved it. And so I had followed him and I reached out to him and we just hit it right off the bat. And it was one of those moments where it's like I feel like I knew this person, for a long time prior to me meeting them. Well, when I met him, which was around COVID, 2020-ish, I told him something. I said, "Hey, Alex, as soon as things settle down with the world and we get a little bit out more back out in the world and we, interact back in society, I would love for you to be able to have an opportunity." And then he asked me what that opportunity is. I said, "Well, I would love for you to be able to perform outside of Texas," because he had never done that. And he said, "Well, that would be an amazing, goal of his accomplished because he's always wanted to perform outside of Texas." Well, that was in 2021. A year after that, and some change, I worked with an amazing team of Rotarians and Rotaractors. See, that's actually another thing that is very key. As you guys are putting on initiatives like your peace conferences and your projects, make sure you try to bring on a couple of Rotaractors in the actual planning committee. Not just involved with volunteering or just working on helping out, getting the word out. Well, have some of these Rotaractors actually involved with the actual planning. So with my mixed team of Rotaractors and Rotarians, I had this idea and I conceptualized it called the International Arts and Peace Festival. This was a one-day event in a place called Taylor, Michigan, which is about 25 minutes from Detroit. And the whole experience was catered towards, I had this idea of, well, we have peacemakers and amazing organization leaders locally. I want them to be able to share their voice, share their story, be able to have them have exposure, but I want young people there. And unfortunately, peacemakers and young people, they just don't end up happening together very well. Young people don't really seem that attracted to coming out to an event when you're talking about peace. Unfortunately, that's the way it is, just because I think young people want to be at stuff that fits their culture, right? And what is their culture? Well, their culture is art, music, just experience. And so here's what I thought. I said, well, why don't we do both? Why don't we have an event that has peacemakers recognized? Peacemakers are going to be talking about their amazing organization or their project or whatever they've done in their experience and in their careers. And then in between every peacemaker, let's have a musician perform. So it's like, imagine a TED Talk where somebody's giving a TED Talk for 10 to 15 minutes, and after every person speaking, there's a musician going up on stage and performing. And that's what this event is. And so we had musicians from rappers, alternative hip hop, to to a comedian, R&B, indie alternative. We had a DJ, we had pop, we had so many diverse sounds of music, and then in between we had a peacemaker. Whether it was, as you can see on the schedule from 3:35 to 4:40, Therese, she talked about Operation Pollination, which was an amazing initiative that was started outside of Rotary, but Rotary has really adopted it, that helps prevent and keeps bees safe and helps prevent bees from going extinct. So that was an amazing initiative. We had a fellow named Dylan Morris. Dylan Morris started an organization helping increase mental health resources for high school students, similar to what Samantha has kind of started. He also survived a school shooting as well, the Oxford school shooting here in Michigan, unfortunately. And so he went on and started this organization. But in his sense, he just really wants to increase mental health services for high school students. And so at the end of the day, when we're talking about peacemaking, it is important to talk about, not only what is necessarily, but what are young people interested in getting involved with? And then how do we mesh this all together? And I think once you start looking at peacemaking at not so much in walls and in boxes, that really peacemaking can be something like bringing out young people to perform, like Alex, who was able to perform for the first time ever outside of Texas. And he had no idea what Rotary was. But again, at something like this, he was able to meet Rotarians and get involved and learn from people. None of the young people that performed knew what Rotary was prior to this, but because of an event like this, they went home knowing what Rotary is, and that Rotary gave them the platform to actually share their story and play their music. And I think that's what Rotary is becoming better at. Rotary is not just this lunch meeting club where you get fancy and enjoy a nice meal and talk about what you guys are doing. But I think Rotary's evolving, and I think we should be open to that evolving. That Rotary can actually be a platform for young people to speak, for young people to share their story, for young people to be able to perform. Because if we're able to do that as an organization, then we can really build peace. Because then you're bringing in organizations that are talking about their impact, and Rotary becomes this platform that not only are you a young person or are you an organization doing some impact, that's how Rotary can get involved. So I believe that's the direction that Rotary has been taking and has been so great at. And I'm so proud to be able to share an experience like this towards helping build peace. Finally, I will end off with this amazing story. In that same year in 2022, a couple months later, I was able to work on a project with SRAG. SRAG is the Environmental Sanitation Rotarian Action Group, and then there's WashRAG, Water and Sanitation Rotarian Action Group. These are both action groups that I would definitely say you should get involved with. They put on events, conferences, they speak at various events, and they also put on tours and experiences. So I was able to get invited to this amazing event and experience. It was a 9-day environmental sanitation, water and sanitation tour where we learned about water and we learned about how our Rotary and Rotaract clubs in the state of Jalisco, Mexico, in Guerrero, and in Michoacan, and in Estado de Mexico, which is state of Mexico. These were 4 places that we were able to reach and be a part of, and we were able to have this experience and learning from Rotarians and organizations that those Rotarians and Rotaractors are working with to help clean water in these areas. And why is this related to peace building? This is related to peace building because it takes you outside your comfort zone to go on a trip like this. You know, there were only a couple of us that were American on this trip, and we were able to just be literally loved in open arms, toured in open arms, given the best experience ever. Not only did we have such a great cultural exchange, but we were able to really see how can we go back with the knowledge from this trip to our own Rotary clubs, and whether it's send a cohort of Rotarians from our club back into those areas and actually build water sanitation, purification, and other initiatives, then how can we also bring money out over there, right? So the whole point of something like this is, in order to also build peace, it takes experiences like going on a Rotarian action group or a Rotary trip that helps clean rivers, to help provide polio vaccinations, to help build infrastructure, whatever it may be. It takes those experiences to then come back to our clubs and in our communities to then really implement what people are doing around the world here. I always live by this quote that is that is act local, think global. And I love that because you can act locally, but you can think globally, and you can have global experience and bring that to your local communities. So when you're thinking about peace building, don't just think about peace building for yourself or for your club, but think about peace building in the sense of how did it impact someone like Alex, and how it allowed him to perform for the first time outside of Texas, or Samantha, where she was able to share her story with a group of 400 plus attendees about what it's like to survive such a tragic incident, but what she's doing to help create peace. Or our Rotaractors around the globe who are out there working on environmental projects, working on mental health access, and just helping create an awareness in which we've never had before. That's what I want you guys to leave off my talk with. Think about these young people. Think about their stories. Don't look at me and think about my story, but I want you to really think about theirs, because I am just a mosaic of everyone I've ever met, and I'm nobody without these people today. I'm nobody without any of you all today, and I just want to leave off with if we're gonna build peace, think about the young people, think about the opportunities that you guys can provide as Rotary, as an organization, for other organizations to get involved. And at the end of the day, that's how we are gonna be a better peace building organization. This is a very important photo for me. This is the day of my induction for the Detroit Rotary Club. Um, Everyone that's featured here, as you can see, super young people. This is all Rotaract and Rotarians that are in the Rotary Club of Detroit, and they all came out for my induction. Again, I live by this quote. I'm a mosaic of everyone I've ever met. There are not only Rotaractors in this photo, but there are Rotarians that are so near and dear to my heart that I invited out to be a part of this. And it was all these people that allowed me to be able to not only become a Rotarian, but for me to be able to create an impact and continue to share my story with Rotary clubs all over the globe. Thank you.